Sunnis make up the majority of Muslims worldwide, roughly 90%, and they are the dominant group in countries like Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Turkey, and Indonesia. Their name comes from Sunnah, meaning they follow the teachings and traditions of the Prophet and the consensus of his companions. Shia Muslims make up around 10% of the global Muslim population, and they are the majority in Iran, Iraq, and Bahrain. The word Shia means followers of Ali because they believe that the Prophet's household, especially Ali ibn Abi Talib, were divinely chosen to lead after the Prophet. Now, setting aside politics and history, what are the actual differences in their daily lives and beliefs? Let's walk through the 5 most important distinctions that separate them to this day. Difference 1. The prayer. If you walk into a mosque, you can often tell whether it's Sunni or Shia just by watching how people stand in prayer. When a Sunni prays, they typically place their right hand over their left on the chest. This is the standard practice across most Sunni schools of thought. A Shia Muslim, on the other hand, usually lets both hands rest at their sides without folding them. They believe this was the original way the Prophet prayed in the early days of Islam. As for prostration, this is perhaps the most well-known difference. Sunnis prostrate directly onto the prayer mat or the floor. Many Shia Muslims prostrate onto a small clay tablet, often made from the soil of Karbala, which they consider sacred ground. When it comes to prayer times, Sunnis pray all 5 prayers at their individual times: Fajr, Dhuhr, Asr, Maghrib, and Isha, combining them only in special cases like travel or illness. Shia Muslims also have 5 prayers, but they commonly combine Dhuhr with Asr and Maghrib with Isha, resulting in 3 prayer sessions per day. Even the Adhan has a small difference. After the phrase Hayya ala al-Falah, Shia Muslims add Hayya ala khairil amal, a phrase not included in the Sunni call to prayer. Difference 2. Religious authority. Where do Muslims turn when they have a religious question? That depends on whether they are Sunni or Shia. Sunnis rely on the Quran and the prophetic Sunnah, the words and actions of the Prophet as transmitted by his companions and scholars. Over time, 4 major schools of Islamic law developed, each named after the scholar who founded it over 1,000 years ago. The Hanafi school, the oldest and most widespread, dominant in Turkey and South Asia. The Maliki school, prevalent across North and West Africa. The Shafi'i school, common in East Africa and Southeast Asia. The Hanbali school, dominant in Saudi Arabia and the Gulf. Sunnis consider all 4 schools valid, and a person may follow any of them. Religious leadership, in their view, is based on knowledge and scholarship, not divine appointment. They respect the companions and caliphs, but do not consider them infallible, since infallibility in their belief is reserved for prophets alone. Shia Muslims hold a different view. They believe the correct interpretation of the Quran and Islamic law must come through the 12 imams from the Prophet's household, whom they consider infallible, just like prophets. Since the 12th imam is believed to be in occultation, Shia Muslims today follow a living senior scholar known as a marja. Each Shia Muslim typically chooses a marja to follow in religious rulings and guidance. In short, Sunnis follow schools of law established centuries ago, while Shia rely more heavily on a living religious authority to guide them on contemporary issues. Difference 3. Marriage. Both groups consider marriage a sacred institution, but there is one specific type of marriage they strongly disagree on. For Sunnis, marriage is a permanent contract, intended to last a lifetime until death or divorce. Valid marriage requires the consent of the woman's guardian, 2 witnesses, and a public announcement. Sunnis completely reject any form of temporary marriage and consider it forbidden. Shia Muslims also practice permanent marriage in the same way, but they additionally permit a contract known as mut'ah, or temporary marriage. This is an agreement between a man and a woman for a specified period of time, agreed upon from the start, along with a set dowry. When the agreed time ends, the contract dissolves automatically without a formal divorce. Why the disagreement? Shia Muslims believe mut'ah was permitted during the time of the Prophet, and that the prohibition came later from the second caliph, Umar ibn al-Khattab, not from God or the Prophet himself. Therefore, they view it as still permissible. Sunnis, however, believe the Prophet himself permanently prohibited mut'ah before his death, making it forbidden to this day. Difference 4. Ashura. This difference carries deep emotional and historical weight. Ashura falls on the 10th day of the Islamic month of Muharram. For Sunnis, Ashura is a day of worship, fasting and gratitude to God. The Prophet fasted on this day, and it is believed to commemorate the day God saved Prophet Moses and the children of Israel from Pharaoh by parting the sea. While Sunnis do grieve the killing of Hussein ibn Ali, the Prophet's grandson, which also occurred on this day, they do not hold annual mourning rituals for it. Ashura remains for them primarily a day of fasting and closeness to God. For Shia Muslims, Ashura is arguably the most important religious and emotional day of the year. It commemorates the Battle of Karbala, when Imam Hussein and a small number of his family and companions were surrounded and killed by the army of the Umayyad Caliph Yazid ibn Muawiyah. To Shia Muslims, Karbala was not just a battle. It was a supreme sacrifice made by Hussein to defend religion against oppression and corruption. Therefore, they observe Ashura with large mourning ceremonies, wearing black, holding processions, listening to accounts of Karbala, weeping and beating their chests in grief and solidarity with Hussein's suffering. Most Shia do not fast on this day, as they consider it a day of tragedy and mourning, not celebration. Difference 5. Pilgrimage and Shrines. On the matter of Hajj itself, Sunnis and Shia are in complete agreement. Both believe Hajj is a religious obligation, and every year they gather together in Mecca, circling the same Kaaba and worshipping the same God. The difference appears in another form of religious visitation. Shia Muslims place great importance on visiting the shrines of the Imams, especially the shrine of Hussein ibn Ali in Karbala and the shrine of Ali ibn Abi Talib in Najaf. They consider these visits spiritually rewarding acts of closeness to God and occasions for seeking intercession. Sunnis, particularly more conservative schools like the Hanbali, disagree with these practices. They love and respect the Prophet's household, but they believe that building grand shrines and praying at graves could open the door to idolatry. They emphasize that supplication must be directed to God alone, without any intermediaries. This is why large shrines are rarely found in Sunni-majority areas compared to Shia cities. Closing message. This division has lasted more than 1,400 years, and it revolves around several key points. But there is something important we must understand. While we are busy arguing over events that happened over 14 centuries ago, there are those who benefit from this division, and they watch our weakness grow day by day. A divided nation is a weaker nation, easier for its enemies to exploit. And many of those who are hostile to Muslims don't distinguish between Sunni or Shia. They simply see Muslims as one. The more division and hatred grows among Muslims, the easier it becomes to weaken and manipulate them. So whether you are Sunni or Shia, what matters most is that we focus on what unites us, rather than what divides us. We worship the same God. We follow the same Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. We read the same Quran. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button.